The way things are basically going to work is that I want to export the low poly and the high poly as one single mesh object, typically an FBX or an OBJ, but I'm prepping it with Maya. Now, I started the UVs here, and I wanted to mention one thing. There was some issues with the hair unfolding, and definitely, again, if I were to do this more properly, I would clean up my topology here. It's a little bit messy. I would probably keep the clean stuff and maybe do some re-extrusions, but for the sake of the demo, I'm going to leave it as is. And sometimes in production, you'll know, like you don't always have time to get it perfect. You've probably seen games where there's little glitches, little texture issues, little weird mesh issues, right? And that's because, sometimes good enough is just that. It's good enough to get it into a game, into a movie or whatever, and render it. So in this case, all I simply did is I went into my mesh editing, which again, if you don't have my interface set up, you can go to geometry, there's mesh integrity, and you go to check mesh, fix mesh, and then under modified topology, there is optimize. So I usually go to check for errors. For whatever reason, even though Maya was pulling up errors, it didn't find any. I still went to fix, just out of habit. Okay, and then under modified topology, I went to optimize. So optimize basically like cleans up the data to make sure it's fully optimal for production, for rigging, and will hopefully not generate errors and bugs and weird things with skinning and animation down the road. So it's a really good process to do as you're getting through this, because if the vertices change, then the UVs change. If the UVs change, then the textures don't work. And if the mesh changes, then your skinning breaks, right? On and on and on. So this is kind of the final step you should do as you're prepping for skinning, rigging, and texturing, right? For real advancement in production. So once I did that, I double checked in Maya. I went back to the hair object, and I was able to basically grab the shells. And again, I went to unfold just to test it, and it laid out properly. It worked. It didn't give me any kind of error. And if I selected, let's say, all the objects, all the shells, and I just want to show you that, if I wanted to pack this, you can do this. This is an old school way of doing it. You pack everything into one texture, right? One shell, one UV unit. And I'll talk about what that means in a second, but this will fit, right? But the problem is that, it's hard to focus. The face is not getting enough space or texture space, right? It's not getting enough. So a lot of times we want a full texture for most of the body, basically, like the costuming, the exposed parts of the body, the legs, the hands, the arms. So we want usually a single 4K map for that on average, usually a single 4K or 8K map for the face, because that's one area that's often in close-up, right? And you want to think about this for your film or your project as well. Like if the hand's in close-up, then that maybe needs a bigger part of a shell, or maybe needs to be assigned a higher resolution texture. So one way we can kind of keep this as a single mesh object for texturing and organize it is to do what's called UDIMs. So UDIMs, I'm going to undo this, by the way. So UDIMs is the idea that, whatever happens in this square, you notice that there's many, many squares, and there's actually kind of these numbers, okay? And if I turn on this, let me just nudge one of these out of here. Will it pop up? Right? You actually have many infinite tiles, so you can technically create multiple unwraps on a single object, or in this case, they're still separate objects, but I'm going to treat them as one object, right? So on these multiple objects, or as a single character mesh, I can actually say, okay, well, let me take the whole head, for example. Let's go back to object for a second here. So yeah, all these, right? I'll take all these shells, and let me just turn off this background pattern, right? I can pack these into their own space, okay? And the way to do this and to kind of keep them in their layout is to go to transform in the UV tools, and I usually go in here. This is the move tool. So you've got U, which is like left to right, and V, which is up and down. And beyond this, I think if you go to the right, it's a positive on U. If you go to the left, it's a negative. If you go up, it's a positive, and if you go down, it's a negative, okay? So I'm going to set this to one whole tile. And what's interesting about this, right, is wherever the texture is, it will keep repeating beyond this infinitely. Up, down, left, right, and all these squares. So that's how this system works, is that this texture will still map the same way, okay? So it's okay if it's offset. And like I said, if we grab the rest of the objects here. So when you bake these things out inside of Substance, it'll recognize that you have UDIMs. So let's say I want to take just the whole body here. I'm going to take this and maybe offset its shells by another tile over here, okay? So now when I start to look at this as a single object, right, it starts to make some sense. So this is what's called UDIMs, right? It's basically, instead of having the object be fully split, right? You can sort of have ID-based textures. You can have multiple textures on one object, multiple UVs for one object or for specific sections, right? And that way you can apply unique textures, unique materials to those elements. And we can do that from Substance Painter. Now, even within that, you know, like let's say within the clothing, I'll show you in my model here, right? I do have, you know, maybe some patches and things on a sweater that are meant to be kind of different colors, okay? Like here. And I think in this model, if I'm not mistaken, let me just double check here. Yeah, these are still floating parts. So for something like this, I want to basically create auto groups. So, and I'm going to bake that over as a texture. So if I, let's say, auto group this version of the model, where I have still, it's one subtool, but they're still floating from each other, right? What I can actually do is, you know, look at these polygroups. I can actually go to, yeah, I did auto group. And if we go to texture paints, let me just divide this up a little bit more so it's a bit more sharp. You can go to create, poly, yeah, I have to go to poly paint first actually. Sorry about that. Poly paint, where's poly paint? Poly paint, and I'll say poly paint from poly groups. Now, when I look at just the flat color, right, you see that I've actually got different color codings. So I will kind of reorganize this mesh a bit, and I'll just show you why. So let's say, yeah, in the sweater, I want a certain patch. The patches appear to be a certain color. So I'm going to just regroup these, hit Control W, and I'll do the same thing for these kind of leg patches. So I'll hit Control W, okay? So now if I do poly paint from poly groups, I get a grouping here. So that will be the leather, let's say, there. The purple will be the fabric of the sweater. The pink area will be the base of the pants, and the dark purple will be the kind of like color coding that I'll use to isolate material on just that part. So we'll come back to that concept though in a minute. So there's a couple ways to organize. One is through ID maps. So I'll show you that. ID maps, right? So these ID maps allow you to kind of take either a single texture, a single UV, a single UDIM, or multiple UDIMs, right? And basically say, okay, when I want to drag a metal material, it goes on materials with this poly grouping and this color coding, okay? Does that make sense? Hopefully. So yeah, for the UVs, I do want to start kind of polishing and finishing things. So I'm going to take, yeah, this this thing is still a bit of a disaster, but I'll probably just break these down. Sometimes the simplest way is to just break down the chunks. Another thing I've noticed, I have been using a special plugin called UV Packmaster, but I've actually found a couple of just simple tools in Maya that work great and avoid the need of a tool like that. So if you go under Align, is it Align? No, I think it's Arrange and Layout. If you go to Orient Shells, you see it actually kind of aligns them to a grid. And then if you hit Layout, it packs things so much more efficiently, and it's so quick, right? So we have far less wasted space, way less wasted space, okay? Now you can also go back into the layout options, and again, I usually set this resolution, so I'll go to 4096 for the packing resolution. And then again, for the texture map size, 4096. And again, I have a pixel padding of 16 pixels for the shells and the tile. The main reason is that when I bake the material in Substance, I usually extend the pixels of each shell 16 pixels more, so that if there's ever smoothing or a weird seam that sometimes, I don't know if you've ever seen a seam in a texture, like a gap. Sometimes that happens because when you smooth something, it stretches the edges of the UVs, and then you get this like black line or a gap. So this is what I'm doing, is I'm going to overextend the baking of the textures. I think it's called texture map dilation. Texture map dilation. Right? So yeah, basically instead of just going right to the very edge of the UV shell, it just like extends far beyond it. So if there's ever, you know, like I said, a weird gap in the texture map, it will not happen. It just will not be visible, okay? So that's one of the reasons why I set things up this way. And again, I usually save this as my default. Hit Layout UVs, and we'll let it run. So yeah, I think the boots for me will be a very specific sort of leather texture with a certain amount of wear and tear. So I'm going to treat them as one kind of UV shell, or one UV tile and a UDIM, and I'll offset them. Okay, so there everything's like laid out pretty good. I'll try to maybe do one more layout here and see if that makes a difference, but Yeah, the best thing to do is to try to find the longest pieces and just break them essentially. So, because that kind of prevents you from optimizing and using as much of the space as possible. I'm just speaking from experience. So I'll let this lay out one more time and I'll see if I like it. If not, I'm going to break some of these pieces down. Yeah, it's basically doing the exact same thing. So these super, super long pieces here have to go. This one is crazy long. So I'll just simply go to edge. I'll try to kind of find a midpoint if I can. You can be more precise and maybe hide these, but again, sometimes in production it's go, go, go. So I'll pretend like my boss is breathing down my neck a bit. So yeah, I'll go in here, do a cut. Sometimes if you have these weird gaps like this, I can sort of see that shouldn't be broken like that. So I'm going to go to move and sew. That's shift right click, move and sew. And if you hit G, it just repeats the last command. So a lot of times you're like, oh, this is a bit broken, a bit weird. You can do that super quick, especially if you have to do a lot of these kinds of edits. So I see that here, G, oops, G, repeat last. It's like that, G, you know, so we're kind of fixing and going really, really quickly. You know, again, I've seen a lot of kind of, I don't know, AI tools, and there's some stuff on the horizon that actually that is automating UVs in a very good way. So I'm hoping that comes along soon, but I'm not going to use any that basically take my models into the cloud and essentially extract my work. So I don't trust that. So again, I'll just do an unfold and let it run for a minute. And it should pack, I think, a fair bit better. Again, I'll keep looking, analyzing. So I broke down the longest kind of shells that are preventing me from using, you know, I don't want these big gaps, right? So yeah, these are looking better. I'll grab maybe this one and split it. So again, I'll try to find a midpoint. Again, it's useful to double check on the model, but in this case, I'm trying to hustle here. So yeah, let's break maybe these down a little bit. G will, again, repeat last, so we can break these down. G. G, okay, shells, unfold. I think it's going to do a better job this time. Not yet. I'm going to go Z back, which will update it when I bring it back. So I'll go back to the orient shells, which helps, and then I'll go to layout. There. I think this is pretty good. It's much, much more used, right? There's very little wasted space. And if you wanted to, you could do some hand modifying. Like I could maybe split these U shapes one more time. The kind of horseshoe shapes, just to kind of fix that a bit, or you know what I mean? Like try to, so I'll just do that one last bit of editing, I think, and shift right click, cut. And then all I need to do is go back and do the same thing here. G, repeat last, G, repeat last. So a lot of times you're doing the same kind of sequence over and over again, or the same edit on multiple pieces. This is just such a fast and easy and efficient way to do it. Again, you want to be faster and better than these damn machines. So I'm going to go back to unfold. I'll do basically orient shells and then layout. Okay. Okay, so orient shells, layout. There, I think that's pretty good overall. Okay. Now, again, I want to sort of look at all of this as a whole, so I'm going to grab everything, right? So let me go back to the boots for a second. I'll go back to object mode. So I'll take this shell, this set of UV shells, and I'm going to go and offset these, right? So I'll go back to, or is it my transform and offset 1, 2, maybe 3 tiles, and then I'll just kind of view everything again here in object mode. So you see the kind of logic that's starting to unfold, right? We're starting to sort of spread these things out. I should double check these shells. Orient shells, and then do a layout. Yeah, layout for, you know, I don't know if there's an option in this in here for Maya, but I'm going to offset these back to where I want them. So I actually have a lot of room in the clothing area, so I might include, sometimes I'll include other stuff, like I might include the hair as an accessory, okay? So I'll double check the hair. So I'll grab maybe the hair and include that with the clothing. But again, they're going to be two different types of materials, right? So I want them to be selectable. So I'm going to use this color ID map concept later to be able to just say, apply something to the hair, apply something just to the clothing, okay? So I'll select these two and I'll basically treat them as one packing. Now I'm gonna, I think, tweak my settings here because it is slowing me down a bit, the layout UVs. I'm doing it separately anyway, so I don't really need it to be done initially. So I'll just hit apply. And that's gonna make things a little bit faster. So I've unfolded these. I'm gonna go to, let's go back to orient shells. And then I'll go to layout. Yeah, layout UV. By the way, I was mentioning earlier, I definitely think there's some edges here that should be cut or split a bit better. So I'm going to just shift, double click on these edges and sort of, I can sort of see in the mesh, roughly where they should probably be split. And if you're unsure, you can, here, let me just grab the object. I'm going to isolate with Control 1. Yeah, so maybe I'll take a look at this, this seam. Now, I probably want a seam somewhere in here. It's somewhat of an issue if you try to click on it in the model because it goes everywhere. But if you do it in the shell and select, let's say, this region, you can more effectively, I find, cut these into better shells for flattening and unwrapping here. So I'll cut those. So again, like I said, I do some tweaking and some editing, but a lot of times I'm like 90% of the way there, and it's really, really efficient coming from ZBrush and using the, what am I trying to say? This is a bit of a weird mesh area for sure. But yeah, using the polygrips is such a great tool and so fast for getting, getting this done. It's one of the reasons I like using it in remeshing, because if you're smart enough and if you set them up well enough, your planning of the your planning of the polygrips and how that remeshes, because it can then almost directly become your UV shells, right? And so the polygrouping and splitting of the mesh, if I'd done a better job, I should have split these hair chunks, each individual chunk into clean polygrips, and I would have gotten cleaner remeshing here for sure. Okay, so I'll grab that, just make sure it goes all the way to the end, go to cut. Okay, so yeah, I can split some of these kind of bigger sections up, I think. And this will also give me better, less distorted textures. Oh yeah, this is not nice here. This is very nasty. Okay, so I'm going to just try. Yeah, I'll try to just split it a little bit better. May not be perfect, but it'll be good enough for now. Okay, so I'm going to double click on this, and there we go. So I kind of got like 3 even-ish chunks. Okay, let's go to shell. Let's get out of the isolation mode. So yeah, I've decided, because of the waste of space between the hair and the clothing, and I think my hair is going to be more of a simple, almost flat color, maybe with a little bit of texture or whatever, but I can pack these in together into one shell. So that basically means there'll be one texture map, one 4K texture, but I can create color coding so that, right, the hair is one color, so I can quickly apply and mask just the hair to have one texture. I can mask let's say the shirts to have one color and one texture, and I can mask the pants to have the same, okay? And then I can bake it out as a single map, but each section that's assigned its unique set of color, roughness, normals, whatever, that will be easily identifiable, and it optimizes my scene so I don't have like 15 textures for a character when I only really need 3, 4, maybe 5. Okay, so let's go back to the unfold again, because I've broken things in a new shell, so I want to get a clean unwrap. There we go. So we've got better singular shells for the hair. Are the pants done right? Let me just double check here. Yeah, I think this one, I must have forgot a split on one side, right? So I can now go in and simply grab, I think, this edge. Yeah, you see how it goes through the whole mesh? So when you do it inside the UV editor and double click one edge loop, you can do that here and just go to cut, okay? So now I should have a similar split to what I had before. So I'll go to unfold. And sometimes, I may have made a mistake in my unfold. I may have missed a step when I polygrouped. Okay, I'll go to orient shells and then go to layout. Again, I find this is so good at getting, a very, very effective layout. And I may also use this tool. I do have to double check if the layout settings here are actually the same used in here. I'm not 100% sure about that, but yeah, it looks the same. So I think whatever I set up in my layout options here carry over to this button. So if you take a look now, there's much less wasted space compared to me just doing, let's say, the body here. So if I literally just select the body shell, sorry, let me, yeah, just grab these pieces, right? So if I were to lay these out, I think I was not getting a very effective, you know, it's very, very wasteful. There's like some huge gaps. So by adding the hair in, I've actually saved a lot of wasted space. So that's one way you can optimize your scene, right? It's a big thing now in games too. I know Unreal Engine has tried to integrate something like Nanite, which automatically lowers poly count. And it's actually not as efficient as an artist just going in and making low, medium, high poly meshes, making sure textures are optimized and every pixel in the UV space is used. So I do think it's a very, very useful skill to have and to develop. Okay, so I'm about done. I'm going to just double check all my other pieces, and let's just go back to object mode in the viewport. And yeah, I'm not sure what's left here. So I'll go back to, yeah, my hair. Take these. I'll take the shells and offset them. Sorry, let's go back to up here. Yeah, offset, move, one tile. Sorry, let's go back to object mode. Yeah, I'll move them one other tile over. So I'll select everything. I'm going to just double check. So this is what, the boots, I think, over here. UV shell. Yeah, that's the boots. I feel like the boots are taking up way too much space, so I may pack them in. It actually might make more sense to pack in the boots with the costume, so I think I'll try that. I'll go back to object mode, grab this, shift click this, grab all the shells. Basically, I will do a layout. There. So now they're packed in, and I think they're actually taking up a more appropriate amount of space relative to the rest of the model. The only way I would keep it this way, where the boots are really, really like large and might have a full 4K texture map, is if we see the boots in close-up, right? If we're seeing them in close-up, they will need probably a dedicated 2K, 4K, maybe 8K texture, because we don't want to see like blurry textures, okay? So that's something you have to consider, is what parts of the model may be in close-up, okay? So let's go back to object mode. And what are these pieces? The shells. So I'm gonna just try and grab the rest of the shells. I'm not exactly sure what's in here, but I will just do a quick unfold just in case, and then I'll do a orient and layouts. For sure, the head, I want to redo the UV, so I'll talk about that briefly, and then we'll be ready to send this back. Okay, yeah, there's the hands. I think keeping the hands in the same space is a good idea. Sometimes you may want to keep the eyes in their own space. Specifically, I should mention this too. You know, we don't need texture for the back of the eyes. So where's the front here? That's the back, that's the front. This is the back, this is the front. You know, technically you can actually delete the UVs that are there. But yeah, I'll keep them and basically maybe pack them on their own. So I'll shift click on these. And I don't know if they need a full 4K dedicated UV space. I'll basically probably grab the hands to go with this, or maybe the teeth and gums as well. So I have a vague idea. That's the gums. Yeah, those are fingers. I believe that's gums. Yes, I see it selecting up there. That's gums. Where's the other? Yes, that's the gum, that's the gum, that's the gum, that's the gum. Okay, and then yeah, I can also grab, I should probably just grab the object. It's probably easier that way. So what am I doing? Eyeballs, yeah, teeth and the eyeballs. So grab these. So again, it's easier to just grab the tool. I'll just do one more unfold. And again, I'll go to orient shells, layout. Okay, that's pretty good, right? It's fairly optimized for space. Okay, and then I will, yeah, let's offset, I don't know, 4 tiles, and then I'll just kind of grab everything one more time. So these are my UDIMs, right? They're starting to kind of take shape. You know, I'm thinking about this too. Maybe I'll integrate the boots and the hands together because it makes sense. Again, I may not see the hands or the boots in super high res, but they might be in close-up. So I think them sharing a 4K map would be okay. So I'm going to grab these, and then I'll grab, yeah, I should just, again, go back to object mode. So where is it? hands, and then I should have relabeled these, but yeah. Do not relabel these while in Maya because you will break your connection if you're go-zing. Okay, so there's, yeah, Rachel 12 is the boots, and what else do we have? Rachel 12 and 17. Okay, perfect. So I'll grab these shells. Go to, I'll just do another unfold. I usually like to do it just in case. I maybe don't have a fully kind of flattened optimized space, and then I'll go back to orient and layout. So again, the tool will automatically keep all this in proportion, which means you get even pixels per square. You know, it's basically called texel density, which is pixels. I forget the exact breakdown of the term, but it's basically like even distribution of pixels over the surface of the mesh. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to object mode here one more time. Yeah, this part, like I said, is actually one of the more technical and maybe one of the longest and most boring parts of this whole process. So don't worry about that. It will take a bit of time, and it doesn't always have to be perfect either. We just want to get close enough. Let's make sure I'm not grabbing anything outside there. And then I'll move this over. 1, 2, 3, that's fine. Grab these. And we'll pop that back over. This is my old like test texture I was using, so I'm going to just turn off the visibility of that using the little mountain icon in the editor. And as I mentioned, the head does have some specifics. So I'm just going to talk about that briefly. I'm going to isolate this. Here, maybe I'll do, let's go to panels. I'll go to panel layout. I'll do side by side. There we go. And then I'll see if I can just, oh, I forget how to put this in here, but let's see. Will it dock for me? I don't know. Maybe not. That's okay. I'll bring that toolkit back in here again. A bit of a pain, but there. Okay. So, yeah, the splits are kind of weird. So like I said, typically we would split at the mouth and the mouth cavity. So I like to usually split around the lip line. And again, this it can be hard to see. So I will typically just apply or change the base material of this model while I'm editing. And you can also just delete history, which cleans up a lot of the sort of nodes or tabs inside of here. And I'll break my connection. If there's a color connection, I'll break it, and I'll just darken this so it's much easier to see. So I do have some good kind of splits in the model, although I want to clean up this split edge here, especially the one going down into the neck. So I may go back in here. I'm going to, I do want to keep the lip line, like I said, separate, but I think I'm going to remerge this stuff in here, right? This is from the kind of upper lip. So I'm going to shift right click, move and sew. Okay, so that will kind of reattach that piece in here. And then there's another gap in there. And I think that's just this opening here. If I'm not mistaken, yes. Move and sew. And again, it's going to look awkward, but if you take all this stuff and do an unfold, right, you'll see it lay out much better. Hold on a second. There we go. So now you see, right, that is laying out much better. And I already had a polygroup here for the nostrils. As they turn in a little bit, they do make a little recessed area. So that's useful. I think my brows are basically okay. The shapes look fine. These eye sockets, they honestly don't matter because you're not going to see them, in, you know, hopefully, unless you're ripping your character's eyeball out or it's disappeared. So these are fine. You know, I don't care that they're this weird butterfly shape. You know, one thing you can do if you're sometimes obsessive like me, you can go to create and just do a planar map, and you see it's kind of just like the flat shape. I think it's already what it is, but anyways, it doesn't matter. It's not super crucial. Okay, and let me just double check. I do need to perform a little bit of surgery, so I think I'm going to, yeah, let's go in here from this edge loop. Yeah, basically, I'm going to double click the whole border, but I don't want to seal the lips, the edge of the lip to the face. I want to keep that separate, and the mouth cavity I want separate. So I'm going to just take all this stuff and clean it up a little bit. I'll go to shift right click, move and sew. So now we get this strange looking thing. And what I will do, like I said, typically where the hairline would sort of split, and we can do this in symmetry. It probably makes a bit more sense at this point to do this in symmetry. So I'll go to symmetry, object X, and that looks good. So I'll try to double click, shift double click. And usually I kind of go down to roughly the sort of like temples or the, it's like a cranial ridge that's sort of here. And then if I click here and then shift double click towards the back. It should give me a nice long edge. There we go. Shift double click. By the way, Maya's UV tools, I know a lot of people like Blender this, Blender that. These tools are probably some of the best right now in the industry for like a full 3D package. So I'll go to cut, UV shell, grab everything, unfold. Okay, we'll give that, it's going to take a minute. Okay, so there's still some distortion. So I'm going to show you some things too. Like one of the ways I check, and I should check my other parts. You can either turn on in the UV editor. There is a, sorry, let me expand this. Yeah, if you click on the checker pattern, it will display a checker in the UV, sorry, in the viewport. So that is useful. You know, if the checker pattern becomes rectangular or distorted, that means your pixels will become distorted. So I definitely still have some work to do on that. I usually prefer to set up my own material with the checker pattern, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I want to double check what's happening here. Yeah, so this split down here, I don't want there to be a split necessarily down here. So I'm going to take, try to find that edge. What is this part of the lips here? Yes, these are part of the lips. So I'm going to take that and split it off if I can. Yeah, let me just double click from here. There, I can sort of see, yeah, there's some distortions happening from that connection. So I'm going to shift right click, go to cut, and then go to UV shell. Just re-unfold again. Oops. All right, so if you see now, actually, the distortion is starting to go away a bit. There's definitely still a fair bit up here, but again, it doesn't matter so much in the areas where we're not really seeing things. If you can avoid splitting the ears, great. I find in a lot of cases I cannot, so I will usually, yeah, basically find a circular loop. Let's turn off, by the way, the sort of checker preview thing here. Sorry, let me just enlarge for a second. There we go, just turn that off. Okay, so I'll basically try to find a loop that roughly can allow me to quickly go around the base of the ear. Again, you can sort of see it shooting off in space, and that's okay. I'm going to just control, click, and drag to deselect that. And ideally, I should have it all cleanly set up here. I think that's fine. Yeah, so it looks like a solid shape. So I'm just going to go to cut. And then within those shells, I'll probably do a split because, again, there's a big angle change from one side of the ear to the kind of back part, right, as the lobe turns around. So that's something else I'll want to change. I'm also going to maybe get things oriented better. So I'm going to just rotate this, and then I'll do a quick orient shells and a quick layout. And then I'll do unfold. So again, as you go through the process, it is kind of ever evolving, and you will find that, you know, maybe there's ways to optimize this, because right now the head is only using about half the UV space, and I do want to fix that or update it. So I don't like the split in the chin, you know, because again, we don't want an obvious seam to reveal itself potentially. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll basically weld this thing back together. Move and sew. Take this shell, I'm going to unfold it again. Right, so now you see the kind of Halloween mask effect, right? And the distortion, I think, should be a lot better. Sorry, let me just expand this a little bit. There we go. Yeah, I'll collapse this panel and this panel. I don't need those. Yeah, so for me, this is looking much, much better, right? There's still some distortion. So sometimes as a workaround, I may decide to kind of split the neck off a bit. And again, I want to try to do it in an area where it's a bit more hidden. Now, like I said, for me, I actually prefer to have a custom material. I'm going to go to the attribute editor and simply go to, oops, let's delete history. And then, yeah, just inside of color, I'll basically add checker. I usually like light gray and black. And then under placement, I usually like it to be at least 20 by 20. So now if I hit 6 on the keyboard, there, we'll see the checker pattern. Sorry, yeah, I'll make it white and light gray. Yeah, do it that way. It's a little more kind of like appealing, and we can sort of just get a visual look. So a bit of stretching here, but Yeah, so I think I'll split the neck off. Sometimes I will just because there's so much neck and shoulder area. It's a more effective to kind of split it that way. So I'll try to maybe look at it from here. Yeah, let's do this, and then I will deselect from here. There. So now just looking at it, it's very easy to see, okay, control, click, and drag. I don't want those edges. Shift, right, click, cut. Go to shell. I will grab all the shells, and let's pull this back a bit. I'll unfold, which basically unfold is literally like trying to stretch it out. It's almost like when I first, this kind of tool first came out, I was using a software called 3ds Max, and it was a tool called Pelt Mapper. It's literally like when people take the fur off an animal, they find seams to cut the fur and stretch it out, right? And make it as flat as possible, whether it's for clothing, rugs, whatever. So yeah, that's kind of the idea in a weird, grotesque way, but so I'll do my orient again and layout, and I should have, look at the use of the space now. It's much, much better. I'm using almost every pixel I can, right? I'm not wasting pixels in these voids. Now, if you can, maybe I'll try to repack some things in here, or, sometimes what I'll do too is I can make like the mouth cavity really small. If I don't ever think I'm going to look directly into the mouth, which I believe this is the mouth cavity. Let's hit 4 so we can see that. Is that the mouth? Yeah, mouth cavity, upper, lower, right? I mean, they're already pretty small, and I think I'm pretty maxed out for these two. So yeah, if you can, we can try. I'm going to just unhide all the objects now and take a look at the kind of entirety of my setup, basically. And by the way, this is let me just apply the same material to everything that I've got. What do we do? Sorry, yeah. Just right-click, assign existing. I think it was Lambert 1, if I'm not mistaken. Oops, let me just double-check that. Oh, yeah, it's something else. Okay, Rachel, low poly, Lambert 02. So I'll go back to assign existing. Rachel, low poly, yeah, 02. Right, so now I can sort of see, okay, are things working? This, by the way, I'm not sure. This black, I think what's happening is the polygons are inside out. So I'm going to double-click these, go to mesh display and say reverse. And let me just, yeah, now they're not turning black. So that, for me, even though I applied a material, it was still black. It was telling me, hey, there's something wrong with those faces. They're not facing the right way. But if you look at the checker, right, the checker tells you, is it distorted? In most places, no. And sometimes you can't always tell with a very large checker. So that's when I go back to this material and I'll up it. Usually I like to up it, like I said, up to 40 so I can really see in the finer areas. And you can go higher. But there. Now if I upped it, I look at the fingers, they're pretty distortion free, right? Maybe a little bit in the sweater. So, sometimes I'll split the kind of cuff off from the end, and I should double check that. So let's go into the edge here. Yeah, see this kind of cuff. For sure, I think I would do another split there. So let me just do a little tweak, and then yeah, I think the rest is good. And I'll do the same thing on the upper part as well. And I think that, yeah, it's happening in symmetry, which is good. I'll go to cut. There. Okay, let's get back to the full object here. I'll just hit 5, so I'm just seeing the flat display. So yeah, there's the head. There's the, oops. So yeah, because I did some edits on the clothing, I'm going to take all the clothing shells, which also includes the hair, just because there's space there. I'll take that. I'm going to just re-unfold it. Re-unfold. Oops. Sorry, one more time. Try. Unfold. Okay, and then I'm going to just, again, double check. I'll go back to orient shells, layout. Yeah, again, they kind of jump back to the home tile, so I'm going to just offset them by 1, okay? Yeah, there's something weird here. I noticed this. There's some connection still happening, so I'm going to try to fix that if I can. Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard. I'm just going to maybe cut off these bases here and fix that. Yeah, there's some kind of awkward stretching. I'll just, again, take all these shells and re-unfold. Okay, orients. And then, yeah, this is better. Yeah, this definitely is better, I think. Okay. Not sure about this too. This is a bit weird, but I'll see if I can get away with it. Like I said, I don't. If I were doing like detailed hair texture, then I would definitely make sure that was a little bit better. But for now, this is okay. I'm going to be having more of a flat kind of color. This is good though. This is all fine. Okay, I think that looks good. I'm going to just rearrange these spaces one more time. So let's say for the head teeth accessories, I'll take all that. Make sure I've got the right selection, and then just offset back here. Okay. Now, I highly, highly, highly recommend you save this because sometimes when you hit Go Z, yeah, there's something broken here. Is that right? UV shell? Yeah, let's go to UV shell. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to just try to fix this because I do want to make sure I'm not. Yeah, there's something really odd there. Yeah, it actually looks like a glitch because when I click it here, it's fine, but in the viewport, it's acting a little strange. So I'm definitely detecting some anomaly here. Yeah, it's very odd because in here it's selecting and highlighting properly. So I think there's just, yeah, this looks fine. So I actually think things are okay. I'm going to just cross my fingers. But yeah, let's save this just in case something goes completely haywire. There we go. Make sure your stuff is very easily labeled and numbered so that you can have kind of a sequence of files. Now, the main thing is make sure you're in object mode. Grab all the objects that you brought in from GoZ. And I meant to mention this, by the way. So if GoZ is not working, what you can do is just take all the visible tools at their low poly division and go to merge visible, okay? And then you can do your editing like we did with them as separate objects. But in this case, I like to go back and forth because sometimes there's a mesh problem. I bring it back, I GoZ quickly back that particular tool. I remesh it, I send it back. So that's one of the things I love about GoZ. It's not file, export, OBJ, FBX, and then import. And it's very fluid and seamless when it works. So I hit GoZ, and it should already have the connections and pop back in and replace all this stuff, okay? So you'll see it kind of pop through. And again, that's one of the reasons why I suggest if you're going to rename something, either do it before you GoZ or export, right? And in this case, now I've got my UVs done, so I would be okay to. Yeah, by the way, the character head may look weird because my test texture is applying now, but the UVs are different, right? So if you just simply go in, if you have something like that, you just simply have to go to texture map and turn it off, okay? Okay.